Okay, now I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Michelle Boss, aka The Money Boss. She is a personal finance coach and educator who founded The Money Boss, which is a small business serving those seeking to improve their financial life and money management skills. Additionally, she is a businesswoman in Livermore, California, who is currently founding the Livermore Valley Wine Country Inn. The Money Boss believes in financial literacy for all and provides financial classes for teenagers, families, entrepreneurs, and teaches corporate wellness, speaker engagements, and community education. She guides her clients to financial peace and freedom via one-on-one coaching. With money tools and accountability, Michelle addresses topics such as money mindset, entrepreneurship, budgeting, credit and debt management, investing, and establishing success habits and behaviors for a lifetime of financial wellness. Michelle, take it away.
Thank you, Jasmine, and thank you, FLETCHCON, for having me here tonight. I'm thrilled to be here to inspire and influence you and talk about this very important topic. And I have someone helping me with the slides, so if you'd like to advance to the next slide for the welcome. Wanted to let you guys all know that as a personal finance coach and educator, I have a lot of freedom to talk about different topics and in a way that a financial advisor or planner may not. But you should also know that tonight's and the information I'm presenting to you is a very experiential. It is not legal or tax or investment advice. So it's for educational purposes, and please feel free to gather any questions that you have throughout the presentation. There will be a 10 to 15 minute Q&A at the end. So really what I want to start off with this evening is that it's pretty scary out there with COVID and being a young adult in college and graduating into a very uncertain economy. Financial wellness is what I want to give you some tips tonight on, very actionable strategies and some inspiration to take action and really help improve your situation. And so the initial part of the presentation tonight is 30 minutes. I'm going to be going over 3 different areas. The first is mindset. The next is practical tips. And finally, opportunities. And again, the goal of the presentation is to help you shift in your mindset and your financial wellness from survival mode to actually thriving and helping others and those in the community. So if you'd like to advance to the next slide for me, please. As I've already touched on, the elephant in the room, being in college right now and getting ready to graduate or start your career, I realize can be very daunting. And our FLETCHCON members were very helpful in putting together some statistics for you tonight. And just to help us level set where we're at in both the economy and in the US as far as unemployment rate. So the first slide here is showing by gender and age, both male and female teenagers, and then those in the 25 to 54 year bracket. Those are unemployment rates as of April. You can see the difference in age as well as gender, and the gap is still persisting. There's relatively high unemployment rates for young adults. So the next slide shows you the unemployment levels by education. So in April 2020, you can see there's quite a big gap between those with a high school or no high school degree and those with a bachelor's degree or higher. And then there's also a pretty direct correlation and about the same amount of gap for those two groups receiving unemployment benefits in 2020. And so that gap, that you see there from April 2020 has persisted into October. And finally, the last slide is showing you the racial disparities between unemployment, and the gaps also persisted into October. So you can see the disparity, especially in Black and Hispanic workers. And that may or may not be correlated to education and some of those sectors such as service and hospitality that are being hit really hard right now with COVID. But, you know, starting here is really just the starting point. And I want to acknowledge that if you have a fear, if you're uneasy, if you're unsure about, wow, what your future holds and what the job prospects look for you, the fear is very validated. But I want to provide hope tonight, and again, strategies, because there's a lot that you can do. So let's dive right into what those things are, because financial disasters don't happen with preparation. And there's very simple, can be complicated, but there's very basic building blocks that you can focus on to build a strong financial foundation. And the education that you have is a really good start. Those financial foundation pieces to help build resiliency, especially in times like this, are insurance, proper insurance, credit management, so managing your credit and debt, savings, and then investments. So those are the 4 basic building blocks of your financial foundation. When you can start now and build those over time, you will continue to build resiliency. So while we may not be able to be recession proof, there's certainly steps that we can take to be prepared. So first and foremost, thank you, is mindset. Before we can help others, we have to help ourselves. And the perfect analogy is an airplane, right? So if you are on an airplane and it's going down, the very first thing that the stewardess tells you is to take your own oxygen mask and make sure you're covered, right? So we're all ambitious. We want to make a difference in the world, but unless we are taking care of ourselves, that is not going to happen. So first and foremost, that financial wellness piece, some of the things that you can do first and foremost is filter what you're consuming. Screen the resources or the sources of news and influences that you're allowing into your sphere. So yes, it's great to gather lots of different perspectives and lots of different resources of information or sources of information and resources, but you also need to be able to make sure that you're not being influenced by all different areas. It could get very overwhelming. It could get very distracting and lead to anxiety, right? A great example during COVID, I don't know if any of you guys have done this, but I had plenty of friends and family watch the news, consume the news for hours on end, right? It was beyond being informed. It was feeding into that fear and that anxiety. So focus on what you can control. What you absorb, what you ingest, information-wise, is one of those things. Your mind, your mindset, your own personal wellness and happiness is another thing that you can control. Your thoughts, your actions, right? So a big piece of money in financial wellness is psychology and human behavior. So that's why we're starting here. And finally, just realize that whether you have a plan or not, it does no good to freak out. Okay, but this is what tonight is all about, is getting some things in place so you can plan, you can be prepared. And then focus on what matters. Instead of spinning and getting very anxious about what's going on and kind of the Eeyore syndrome, right? What can you control? What matters? Your relationships matter. Your personal health matters. So starting from there, I want to share a few techniques that I found very helpful. I use with clients, and the first is journaling. We don't have time to go into every single technique and how to, so I'm going to touch briefly on these and then take notes and go back if you've never heard of these, or if you want to dig in further to learn more about them. So journaling, or also catharsis, is a way where you can write down what's on your mind. There has been proven studies that writing out your thoughts or worries help diminish the anxiety associated with those thoughts and those loop patterns. So doing the journaling practice on a regular basis is highly recommended, especially to combat anxiety. Affirmations is another one. It can be very simple. For example, I am well, all is well, all is well. And you do create what you focus on and what you have. It's like riding a bike, right? If I have any mountain bike riders out there, when you're riding your bike, you are supposed to focus on where you want to go. If you look off to the side, guess where your mountain bike is going? Off the side of the trail, right? So if you can focus, especially when there's a lot of worrying thoughts going on and pessimism, perhaps, affirmations that are positive and reassuring can really help bring anxiety levels down, so that you're in a state of mind that if you do have a difficult situation, you can navigate it better. Or if you're a person who's dealing with anxiety on a regular basis, this really helps shift your mindset quickly. The next tool is meditation. And there's a lot of misconceptions about meditation. Like, you have to sit still and you have to be very quiet for hours on end. A meditation practice is just that. So it does not have to be perfect. And what meditation is connecting in with that inner voice or that intuition. And so it can be very simple. Something such as breathing in, I am flow. Breathing out, I am flow. Breathing in, I am flow. Breathing out, I am flow. Kind of working in an affirmation in there as well. And one of my favorite meditation teachers is David G. That's David J.I. And he's fabulous. He has a lot of free materials, so that's a great resource if you have tried meditation before, or have never tried it before, and or would just like a great place to start. David G. Is one of my favorite meditation teachers, and it can be very calming to the mind, very, very soothing. The next tool I wanted to share with you tonight is called Emotional Freedom Technique, EFT. Again, can't teach you how to do it, but very briefly, EFT is tapping. And so look up a YouTube video. It's a wonderful technique. It sounds a little out there, but it brings presence to your physical body, and it helps detach or break that pattern of negative thoughts or anxious thought patterns. And finally, a vision board. Vision boards are amazing for giving yourself space to dream, declaring what you want to create, accomplish, or bring into your life. And there doesn't have to be any time frame on the vision board. in a nutshell. I have a class on this. So if you want to learn more about vision boards, feel free to email me. We'll give you the contact information at the end. But it's basically a fun art project where you collage different things. There could be affirmations, there could be goals, very visual pictures. And then you can use that to focus on or redirect focus if you're very overwhelmed or feeling very anxious and just need help centering and dialing things back in. So those are some great mindset strategies that I share with my clients that I use myself, and I'm happy to talk to you further about that. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. So moving on, practical tips. What can you do right now as a college student during COVID to help increase your financial wellness? Well, the first thing is to know your numbers. And that is also called a spending plan or a budget. But it's really just being tied into or tapped into what's coming and what's going. So what are your expenses that you have to cover on a regular basis? And then what is your income? And we're going to talk about income a little bit more, which obviously there can be many different sources that's helping you cover your expenses. But if you are not familiar with budgeting, I highly recommend spending a little bit of time. It's not complicated. It can be a little intimidating or overwhelming if you've never done it. And again, kudos to FLETCHCON, because it's not something taught in schools, and it is such an important life skill. When you're at ground zero, and I'll give you an example from my own life, I was divorced with 2 children, 2 little children, and I had full custody. And I was the one paying support to my spouse, my husband. It's a very, very scary time in my life. The very, very first thing that I did was come up with a game plan. And what that looked like is writing down on paper. Of course, there's all kinds of apps for electronic apps and ways to do a budget. There's no right or wrong way, by the way. But I sat down and I looked at, okay, what do I have to cover at a minimum? What is coming in? And, once I just had that down in writing, it was like a relief off my shoulders. It was like, okay, I can do this. And when I'm working with clients, it's a great place to start, because you really need to know where you're at before you even know where to make adjustments or if adjustments need to be made. So knowing your numbers. Next, along those same lines is being mindful about your spending. And one thing I forgot to share at the beginning in the introduction, along with my business developments, I have a couple different businesses as well as the clients that I work with. I'm also part of a millionaire mastermind, which is really cool. And it is open to the public. So if any of you are interested in this, please let me know. Or I can add it to the resources slide at the end. And so a lot of this information and why mindful spending came up here, why this triggered the story, is because once a month I sit down with other millionaires, and you don't have to be a millionaire, you can be an aspiring millionaire. But it's great insight to how they think and their money behaviors and habits that help them get to that level of financial achievement or wealth accumulation. I do believe it is within anybody's grasp. And one of the things that they talked about as far as not that they're doing differently during COVID, but it came up during that conversation. What are you doing differently, or what are you doing during COVID for your finances? And, time and time again, the answer I heard is that they are really watching their spending. They're not going out and making large purchases. They are being very conservative with their spending and being very mindful. And it's not just during this time, but all the time as a financial habit of their lifestyle. It's just being very mindful about what they're spending money on. And I love that concept, but the concept can go be applied to any situation, right? If you're really having a tough month cash flow wise, what are those basic things that you need to prioritize and be mindful about? You're not going to be going out and spending, on discretionary things. You're going to be covering your rent, your food, your auto or vehicle expenses, right? Okay, so that leads us into the next practical tip, which is lowering your debt and saving funds. Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty, and what I really want to impart to all of you, it may sound very conservative, but if we are fortunate enough to get another stimulus from the government, save that money for a rainy day if you at all possibly can. And it's a good habit anyway, which leads right into the next tip, which is living below your means. It doesn't matter what the economy looks like or if times are really good or not, living below your means is generally a really good piece of practice to make sure that in case there is a rainy day, in case something like a recession or COVID hits, that you have plenty of cushion and you're not stretched so thin that there's very little resiliency. When you get to this point, and I do encourage everyone for with an income, so anyone with W-2 income, is to max out your retirement accounts. This was something that each of the millionaires in the roundtable also shared, is that their investing habits, their financial investing habits have not changed as far as maxing out the government resources of the Roth or the 401k accounts, if possible. Another great thing that you can do right now, specifically to prepare for a recession, is go through and run worst case scenarios. So for example, when you graduate college, if you cannot find a job, what is your backup plan? What are several ways that you can minimize your expenses for as long as possible until you can get up and running? And I just want to share that I do know several young adults right now that have found full-time jobs. So, despite the unemployment rates, despite what is going on with companies laying people off, and the state of the economy, there's no reason for you to believe specifically that you're not going to be able to find success. And there's lots and lots of jobs out there, which we'll talk about a little bit later too. But the last practical tip I have for you, I'm trying to share this as quickly as possible given the time, is to brainstorm income ideas. Okay, and so maybe you do this with a group of your peers. Maybe you do this with a mentor or parents or, a teacher or a financial coach. Brainstorming income ideas doesn't mean that is that you need them or that is the path that you're going to go down. But having those options available to you and already thinking through, okay, should I lose my job, or should my roommate or my spouse lose their job? What are some other ways that we can quickly pivot and reduce expenses or increase income to make sure that we're going to weather the storm? And so these specific practical tips, hope that you can find some useful or some inspiration or some useful tips here applicable to your situation. But this should really give you a good, secure anchor, especially during tough times, again, when we're trying to build resiliency. And I want to move on to opportunities next. So back to the airplane and face mask example. Once you have your oxygen mask on and you're doing well individually, that is a great time to look outside, right? Look into your community, look at these other groups that we're concerned about with socioeconomic disparity or struggling, and paying attention first and foremost to micro and macro trends. What's going on around? What's going on around you? What is some of the things that are happening right now in the economy that you might be able to capitalize on, either individually or as a group. So I'll give you a couple of examples, hopefully to drive this home, and so this makes sense. Green energy. Green energy, for example, is an area where we have a lot of room for innovation, and we know that we need to come up with more sustainable trends and lifestyles. And so with the recent election, right, our vice president and president-elect talking about the Green Deal, that is a macro trend that you could, see opportunity in and kind of foresee where things are going so that you can align yourself with opportunities. Which comes to my next point, and back to your job searches. And I'm so optimistic for you guys because you are all smart, young adults. And one really important lesson I've learned from entrepreneurship is that you can be successful in business. You will be successful in business, but this applies as an employee as well. If you are a problem solver. So what are the things that are happening right now, or in the foreseeable future that you can help solve? And when you can do that, when you can provide value to the community or the economy or your employer, that makes you very valuable. And that transcends any sort of recession. The skills and the knowledge that you have and the ability to problem solve and create that value transcends, lose the unemployment rate or losing jobs in the economy. So if you can look for that, those opportunities to solve problems, you're going to find yourself able to thrive and adapt and create that resiliency. And again, specific sectors that are thriving right now, just to give you guys some more optimism and a different perspective. Look at remote education. Look at remote healthcare. There's a lot of coaches and therapists and doctors even, right, that are all now seeing people via remote, like we are tonight. So where are for example, those sectors like technology, Zoom, WebEx, all of those are thriving. And online shopping is another one, Amazon, right? And delivery, in-person delivery services. There's been all kinds of, in addition to DoorDash, now I can't think of the name, but there's one that's delivering liquor and alcohol. So there's all kinds of new businesses solving new problems that are actually thriving or, starting their business right now and taking advantage of some of those sectors that are thriving. Let's see, I talked about education. A couple other virtual industries are sports. Believe it or not, virtual sports are really big, a huge industry. And also looking, this is also an example of a macro and micro trend, but with people living at home, working from home, there's a lot of decentralization happening over in the San Francisco, the Bay Area. I know you guys are in Berkeley. I'm in Livermore, the Tri-Valley. So people are moving this way, east, because they don't have to commute into work anymore. So look at what's happening and how can you identify opportunities either for yourself or to solve problems. And the example I was coming up here is real estate. There's a lot of different real estate opportunities where prices are dropping, prices are increasing. But if you pay attention to those micro trends and those sectors with opportunities, it might give you a clue or some indication of where you might want to pursue your career in. In case you want to go into business and entrepreneurship for yourself, I wanted to also point out that specific to right now during COVID, there's very low rates for all of the, sorry, there's a comment that just came on. Very low rates for borrowing money. And on the one side, we want to be conservative, but on the other, I don't want to discourage you from taking risks and following your dreams. So when you see something like low rates and a lot of incentives for starting business and developing economy, that's something that you want to pay attention to. And perhaps it's an opportunity that you want to take advantage of. So very low rates right now, not only for borrowing money for businesses, but also the real estate sector. So investing in real estate and refinancing mortgages. Mortgage people and real estate realtors, specifically mortgage brokers, are bonkers right now. They're so busy. And then the last opportunity that you might want to look at is giving and volunteering. There are so many nonprofits right now that are in need of support, and that might be a great way if you don't have a lot of financial resources to help your community. You can certainly reach out to some of those organizations that are looking for assistance. And it's a great opportunity to give if you can. If there's a fundraiser that you can pull together to help with those different sectors or with those different organizations that are in need right now, it can really be fulfilling and be a great opportunity to get experience, either as an intern or a volunteer in the nonprofit sector, or even a business that might be taking on interns. So lots of opportunities. It's all about how you look at it. And that's another thing that I love about personal finance is that you can be as creative as you want to be. And sky is the limit. So I want to wrap up. The three different areas we talked about were mindset, practical tips, and opportunities. And it's absolutely possible for you to reduce the economic impact on your finances, even during a recession, by being proactive and intentional. So navigating different situations with a calm mindset, with a problem solving mentality, and an improved mindset is going to help you be more immune to a recession, where you will build more resiliency and keeping these concepts and strategies in mind we can prepare. We can prepare for the job market and can prepare for a recession. So again, I encourage you to email me if you have any questions or would like follow-up information on the things that I've touched on. This is usually an hour presentation, so I talk very quickly. I hope that you got a lot out of it. And that's my email address. Lots of free resources for you there at my link tree. And later in the slide presentation, I don't know if it's going to be distributed, but there's also a resources slide. I don't think I'm going to have a chance to get to that tonight, but I encourage you to check out those resources for further information on both organizations that can help our communities during this time, especially those that are deeply impacted, as well as resources for you as college students for financial wellness. And so at that point, I want to make sure we get some time for the Q&A. And Jasmine, are you hosting that, or are you moderating the Q&A?
Yeah, thank you so much for delivering such an amazing presentation. I definitely learned a lot from you, and we will begin our Q&A session. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand like in the Zoom function.
And go ahead and ask verbally, because I cannot go back and forth on this setup I have here.
Okay, yeah. Brandon? Yeah, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Oh, wait. Oh, never mind. Sorry, that is the screen sharing. So if no, okay, Melissa.
So my question basically goes back to the recession. So I know that there's going to be different impacts. Some are going to be short term and some are going to be long term, but I'm not exactly sure what they're going to be. So will wages be impacted in the long term or in the short term? And how can we prevent some of those things from happening?
Such a thoughtful question. I wish I had a crystal ball. So I can't tell you for sure, but shooting from the hip, my feeling is, or indication is, that we're not going to see wages drop. In fact, with the administration that's coming in right now, there's going to be a big push to increase the minimum wage, and there's not a lack of money going around. There's a lot of money. So when we can help create those jobs, again, solve problems and create that value, either through business and entrepreneurship or as employees, that is going to get things going again. But I don't anticipate there's going to be a drop in the value of human power, or in the job market.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the answer. And because we want to leave time for raffle at the end, we'll take one more question.
Yes. So my question is, will the economy ever go back to quote unquote normal? If so, then when? And if not, then what permanent changes do you see happening, and how will that affect the average person?
That's a big question as well. Again, no crystal ball, but relying on my experience as a developer, what I do have insight into is a lot of feedback from investors, banking, and hospitality. And the reports or projections right now are not showing a return to normal, quote, occupancy levels and daily rates in hospitality until 2023. So, the next couple of years are going to be rebuilding years. Not to say that it will be dire, but I think we are going to see permanent changes. A new normal is the term, right? As far as sanitation practices when we travel. A lot of the Asian countries have worn masks out in public for years. That is part of their culture. I think we're going to see a drop in stigma even after face masks are no longer required in personal hygiene practices. And, again, look at what's happening with workforce, being remote. Is absolutely a viable model that businesses are realizing now is very viable. So, for example, Apple, and I think it was Microsoft as well, both just told their employees recently that working from home is a permanent thing. So, yeah, we're going to see a drop, I think, in commercial building space, and there's going to be a ripple effect, right? A lot of impact. That topic right there could be a discussion for a whole nother hour, but hopefully that touches on some things. And it was a great question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. So if anyone else has questions, please feel free to email Michelle. I'm sure she would be willing to share her knowledge. And we'll be moving on to the raffle part, and I would like to have Nick take over.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Nick. I'm an external operations member of FLETCHCON. So before we start with the raffle, I just want to talk briefly about FLETCHCON and our mission. So FLETCHCON is a student-run organization. Our purpose is to reduce financial illiteracy and help spread awareness on economic injustices. Every year, we hold a day-long conference that is open to all students on campus. During the conference itself, we invite other campus organizations, industry professionals, UC Berkeley faculty, and community partners to host a projected 15 lectures and workshops on various aspects of financial literacy and topics on socioeconomic inequality. Core topics discussed during this conference will usually include an introduction to tax filing return, navigating student financial aid, and tackling the rising cost of tuition and housing. This conference will be on April 10th, 2021. We also have a variety of workshops happening throughout the school year, and at the moment, we have one planned for every month, so make sure to be on the lookout for those. And our next workshop will be centered around finances of being a broke college student. We have attached all of our contact information on this slide, so feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or want to suggest a workshop topic for us. All right, and without further ado, I'll announce our 5 winners. And sorry in advance if I jeopardize the pronunciation of your names. So our first winner is Crystal. Our second winner is Ariana. Our third winner is Kayla. Our fourth winner is Pauline. And our final winner is Stephanie. So congratulations to our raffle winners. FLETCHCON will email you guys to collect shipping address, and you guys will hear back from us soon about your prize. Thank you so much.